Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Fundraising Online conference. It is titled From Generation to Conversion, Thinking Long-Term, and we'll be reviewing the case study of an organization in Spain that has a very successful donor acquisition program. My name is Dani Gonzalez. I've been working in the nonprofit sector for about 15 years now. I've worked at Save the Children, Change.org, and for the past 2.5 years, I am the executive director of digital fundraising. We work out of Spain with nonprofits, helping them execute their digital fundraising campaigns. And today we're going to be talking about Fundación Aladina. Aladina is an organization based out of Madrid that works with hospitalized children. They help about 1,500 children every year in programs that they have located in multiple cities in Spain. We started working with them about 2 years ago, and their digital program now represents about 50% of the renewed regular donors. Our objectives when we started working with them, and these are really the main goals that we have to build a successful fundraising program, was to first off grow a large list of people who really want to connect, and this is one critical aspect. We want to make sure that everyone that is on the organization's list really wants to be there and wants to be hearing from the organization. From that initial interest, we really put a lot of effort into building a long-term relationship with them. And we'll discuss a lot more about how we do this, but it is critical that once we have that initial interest, we continue to engage with those people. And then third and obvious is we want to convert a percentage, hopefully a large one, of the people that are on that list into donors. We want them to really move from that first initial interest to engaging to the organization, and then to really moving on to having the highest level of engagement possible. The first aspect that we really focused on, as I said, is really growing. We believe that people are passionate, or that you can find people who are passionate in just about every cause. There are people who deeply care about animal rights. There are people who deeply care about children. There are people who deeply care about climate change. It is a matter of finding those people, and really, once you connect with them, they will see your organization as the vehicle by which they get involved in that cause that they are passionate about. So really, the key challenge is finding those people. But before we can move on to really finding those people, we first need to know who they are. So one of the first things that we do whenever we work with any organization, we really encourage for every organization to go through this and to actually repeat this process every year or two, is to build personas. We need to know whom we're trying to find before we can find them. And it is critical to look at the demographics, but we are particularly interested in what the people care about, what their interests and their motivations are, because we really believe that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So it doesn't really matter if someone matches the perfect demographics of the people you have in mind who want to support your organization. The first and foremost is that they really care about that in which you work on. So in the case of Aladina, we looked at and thought about who this person would be and who would be their ideal supporter, who is really interested about helping children who are in hospital for long periods of time. And we landed in fairly obviously a more or less mature person, predominantly female, but not exclusively, with interest in younger children. Many of these will very likely be mothers, and specifically grandmothers. From that moment onwards, once we have that very clear idea of who we're looking for, we can then move on to doing advertising and really trying to find those people online. For better and worse, Facebook has a huge amount of data on each and every single person. every time we engage with any sort of content on Facebook, and even outside of Facebook, but within its network, it will collect information and try to build that profile under the ultimate idea of offering the best advertising possible. And you can really leverage that data. So what we do with Aladina is have a petition where we are asking for people to help and support the fight against cancer in children. And with that campaign, what we do is we set up Facebook ads to target the people who match the profile that we have designed in our persona. Based on these initial results, we then start to optimize and iterate over what we're doing. So we obviously focus on improving on our target based on the audiences that we see that are converting best. And we build Facebook lookalikes. This is one tool that Facebook offers where you give them a list of people, and what Facebook will do is use its algorithm to build audiences that look like those people, both again, basing themselves on demographics, but also in their interest areas. And we do these lookalikes both for leads, but also particularly for donors once we start generating them. This can be a very successful strategy. It can work quite well. Sometimes the lookalike will actually not be a great match. So it's a lot about testing and trying those audiences, and maybe even uploading the same list again. Facebook's algorithm will pick up on different items and then create different lookalikes, even from the very same list. And then we launched additional petitions which better match the target audience that we were looking for. We also obviously wanted to use other tools and channels. So we started looking at additional channels for advertising, such as Twitter. We found that Twitter, again, is one of those channels which works very well for some organizations, and particularly for some causes, and not so much for others. So again, Twitter is one of those things that we highly encourage you to test. Some organizations will get great results. Some organizations will have to really try to iterate and change the contents that they're offering before getting the right results. And for some organizations, Twitter might not work at all. And again, another thing we've done with Aladina, with other organizations that we work with, is finding new strategies for people to sign up. So obviously we want those people to sign up. We are able to use the tools that many of our online channels offer us to identify the right people. And it's not simply about giving them a petition to sign. We can offer multiple other tools and encouragements for those people to sign up, be that quizzes, be that surveys, downloads of ebooks, and those sorts of things. What is critical and what's really important is that we want those people to want to sign up. It doesn't really matter if we have a 1 million email list. If no one has any interest in the organization, those people are not engagement. Ultimately, simply the size of your list is a vanity metric. It doesn't really matter. What is important is how many of those people really want to hear from you, and how many of those people are actually opening those emails or clicking through, and they're taking the actions that you want from them. And this moves us onto the next item and the second big goal, which is engaging with those users and really moving them onto having a pure and good relationship with the organization. So once we have users that have showed interest in connecting with the organization, we want to design a journey that allows them to engage not just for the next few weeks, but long term with them. We know that that's where the success of an email program like this one, where that's going to be. It's about how long-term we can think, and for how long we can keep those people engaged and wanting to hear more from the organization. So we, and I mentioned just now, email. This strategy is not based exclusively on email, but it is very email heavy. We think that email is the most powerful tool for engaging with users. For one, we have a very high degree of control over the channel. when we're looking at Facebook or Twitter or whatever other channel, we actually don't control fully how many of the people who are in the audience will receive the message, or when or how, and how that message is going to be perceived. However, over email, we have a very high degree of control. Second, we know that it is the best channel to drive users to take action. Many users will, watch a video, connect with you, maybe even comment on other channels. But if we want a user to take an action, and particularly if we want them to make a donation, there's no channel that currently matches the potential that email offers. And obviously, thanks to mobile phones, it is instant and it is everywhere. No matter where you are, you will carry your phone in your pocket or in your purse, and it is going to sound, it's going to vibrate whenever you get an email. It's not going to take you very long until you pull it out and read what you just received, particularly if you are connected and you really care about who the sender of that email is. So for this, one of the most important challenges that we face is obviously understanding how we needed to communicate with our supporters. And for this, it takes a lot of trial and error, and you need to start messaging the audience to really get right a number of things. For one, the framing. How should we be telling the story, and what those people, what elements in that story people really care about. Second, the tone. It's very different when you're addressing an organization with the personality that Aladina has, which is extremely positive and really looking at the welfare of children, but in a very, very positive and kind way than telling stories for other organizations. So looking at that tone and really figuring that out was very important. But also the stories they cared about. We've seen that there are certain stories or types of stories or certain things that we might want to share that people don't care as much about. So moving forward onto how we actually use emails, I have a few examples of very good strategies that have worked for us. The first one is we want to make it feel personal. There's a lot of debate right now in the growth marketing community about how we need to move from personalization to individualization, in the sense that we wanted to tailor each user's experience specifically to their behavior and how they have engaged with us. Another way to make it really feel personal and make it feel like this is specifically about them is speaking with a very honest and real voice. So this example is an email sent by Paco Arango. Paco Arango is the founder of Aladina and the president. He started working as a volunteer with children in hospitals, and that's really the origin of the organization. It's a really powerful story, and what we have done is sent out this email written by him. And again, this is critical. It's not written by the marketing team. It's not written as if it was with the organization's tone and voice. It is actually Paco himself, and it feels honest. It's transparent. It's about his personal experience, and no one can explain that better than himself. So having that email where, if you look at it, it's not particularly pretty. It could actually, when you look at the template itself, it's just very basic. It is just Paco telling his story. And it just has a huge impact when you get this email. And even though it is being sent through IT services that allow us to, deliver these emails and so on, it is actually his email. We've not set up a bunch of photographs. We've not had a storyteller behind this to build something around it. This is Paco's story, and it's just himself asking people to support the organization that he has, that he so strongly believes in. The next example is really related with Paco's example. So ultimately, we want to hear real stories. We care about what's really happening. So this is an example of an email that we sent on behalf of a volunteer that works with children in hospital. And he tells his story as to why he started volunteering with Aladina and those sort of stuff that he does. It's written in first person, And again, you can see that here the template, it does look slightly more marketing. It is clearly built by someone. It's not simply an email that the volunteer would send. But again, the story behind here is really transparent about the work that he's being able to do and the sort of impact that he's having by helping these children and all the people involved. This really speaks to the mission that the organization has and really motivates people to want to be part of this and to want to get involved. And this is the final critical aspect, which is the impact that the person can have. Whenever we're asking someone to make a donation, to collaborate, to get involved, they want to know whether it's going to have an impact. What good is it going to do if they get involved? So it's critical that when you tell a story and when you ask someone to make a donation, to get involved, we tell them what the theory of change is. How are they going to make a difference? And if you are able to really connect with them through a personal and emotional story and able to explain to them in one simple sentence, if you do this, this other thing is going to happen, which is ultimately what you really want to happen, people are going to move and they're going to be far more motivated to take action. So again, here's an example of an email that we sent where we tell the story of a group of children and a group of brothers actually, and how thanks to the support of the donors of Aladina, they are able to get the sort of support that they need. And this just really resonates well with someone that cares about this issue, because they know that by simply making that donation, they can help children like these. And one critical aspect about engaging is we tend to want to be on the safe side when it comes to sending out emails. We actually have seen that being aggressive in email sense can sometimes be very positive. And the sometimes it's what's critical. We want to make sure that people are getting the amount of emails that they want to get. We kind of have this feeling of I don't want to send too much email because I'm going to bother people. Whereas, again, speaking again about individualization, some people will want to get more emails. Some people will simply just not get enough emails. I remember back when I was at Change and I would do conferences, people working within the nonprofit sector would say to me, "You guys send out too many emails." And actually what we saw was that for some people we did. And for those people, we actually want to send less. An email a week might be too much for a lot of people, but actually two emails a week might not be enough for others. So it's critical that you need to test and measure and make sure that for those people who are most engaged, you want to be sending as much as you can and really and by as much as you can, I mean as long as it's really interesting and valuable content. We don't want to send just about anything. But at the same time, those people that want to get a lot more should be getting a lot more. And those people that want to get less, and you can see that simply by those people engaging less or not opening as much emails, you pretty want to send them less. But you can't really apply when you have a list of 200, 300,000 people, and you can't really apply the same rule is we're going to send an email out a week for everyone on the list. You're pretty going to tire a lot of people, and for many others, you're simply just not going to be engaging with them enough. So you need to be segmenting your database based on their behavior. And again, that's one of those things that's really going to define the success of your digital fundraising program. And finally, we move on to our third main goal, which is conversion. So when we look at the conversion we get through Aladina and how we convert people into donors, about 2/3 of those conversions actually happen online. The other third we do through telemarketing, and I'll discuss a bit of both. But obviously, given the very high percentage that we have of people converting online, a critical aspect for us is really looking at optimizing the forms. It's one of those things that it's very easy to overlook, but a form that doesn't really work well, or a form that has issues that users get stuck, it's actually what's making it really difficult for someone that's committed. Once someone clicks on a button that says, I want to become a donor, very few reasons should stand in the way of them not signing up. However, many online forms have very low percentages of conversion, and that's because we make it difficult for people who are convinced that they want to become a donor to actually do so. So, for example, here's a donation form of Aladina, and when you look at this, you can see that on one side we have the bank account number divided up into 5 different fields. We felt that might have been easier to read, and that would be easier for the person to type in their numbers. But we decided to test it against one single field where people can simply just copy and paste. And we tested it again. As I said, we were fairly convinced that the 5 fields would actually feel easier for the user, but it was a 20% increase in conversion rates, simply having just one donation field, because people could go copy and paste from their bank account, and it'd be far quicker. Again, another aspect that we have found that is critical, and this is whenever we say, people online don't read, they don't have time to read. I've been convinced of that for a very long time, and have discovered in the last 2 years that's actually just not true. People read, and people, what they read is really what's going to convince them to take action or not. So we spend a lot of time optimizing not just the how the form performs and how it behaves, but actually the contents that we have in those forms. And again, here's a couple of examples of different contents that we have used, we can see changes in conversion rates of anywhere between 10 to 20%, which is a huge number when you think about it. And it really just has a huge impact simply by testing the content and figuring out what little tweaks you can make. Just simply adding one word or changing one sentence will actually just have a huge impact. An example we used to have where it says "Únete a nosotros," which means join us. We used to have a phrase that said "Become a donor of Aladina." We thought that was a very clear call to action. We found that simply by changing that, we had a 50% conversion rate increase by moving from "Become a donor of Aladina" to "Join us." So those very small and simple tweaks, because it doesn't require a programmer, it doesn't require any coding of any kind, it's simply just changing contents, will have a massive impact. And then, of course, we look at telemarketing. It represents about 1/3 of the conversions, but we know that it is critical to getting that right. We want to focus. So a person will have the option when they sign up to give us their phone number. It is always optional. We don't force anyone to receive a phone call, and we want to make sure that they are happy receiving that phone call. So what we try to do is we map out when a user is going to be engaging, what they're doing, and based on their behavior, we are calling those people when we feel that it's the right moment. So it's not about simply just calling as many people as you can throughout the day. It's actually about calling a small number of people, but making sure that they are the right ones. If they have opened the key emails, if they are engaging, if they are at the right space, we want to make sure that we call them. Whereas if someone's simply just not as interested, we should not be bothering them. We first need to take them on a journey that's going to want them to receive that phone call, that's going to want them to be in a position where they are ready to become a donor. And finally, I think the biggest reason why this program is having success is because we are thinking long term. So this is not about how many leads can we acquire in the course of this month and how many can we convert over the next 2 weeks. This is about having a meaningful relationship between Aladina and their supporters. So what we try to do is think very long term. We know that it's the case that some people are going to convert as soon as they sign up. They sign a petition and they immediately want to become a donor. That's great. That's fantastic. We know that some people will sign up after they've received 3 or 4 emails because they've learned enough about the organization, they trust it, and it's the right moment for them. But we also know the people that signed up 2 years ago when we started working with Aladina, they're converting today, and some of them will convert 3 years from now. So it is critical that we think about this long term, and we're not in a rush to convert those people. They will become donors when they trust the organization enough, and that's the journey that we need to put them on. And this is it. Thank you so much. Please complete the short session evaluation form, and I'm happy to answer any questions.